But the point being is, though, this is the kind of exciting potential that you can only get really in America. We don't really have this type of play in Australia.
And, Australia's 2% of the market. And we've been able to achieve these gains in the Australian market. So it just makes sense that I now take that model, which has been proven well and truly over nearly 7 years. Let's start looking at the world market.
Welcome to this week's Closing Bell. I'm Callum Newman from Fat Tail Investment Research and joined by the star of the show, Murray Dawes, our king of the trading at the moment. Murray, absolutely on fire, but we have so much to talk about this episode. Lots of stock ideas, lots of trading ideas, and some big news from Murray. So we're going to start with the S&P 500 because the US market just keeps hitting highs.
Can't go down.
It's all happening. I wrote about during the week, Murray, some of the things driving the US market. I'll just list them quickly for context. We've got US earnings are still going up. That's driving the bull market. But stock buybacks at a record high probably by the end of this year, if they're not already. Trump's big, beautiful bill. We all hear about the tariffs, but a factor of that is helping increase US corporate cash flow, the way they do their accounting now through the changes in the bill. Now we have the Fed likely to cut rates. So it's just all coming together for the US.
And the IPOs that are happening at the moment, they
IPOs
are
going
absolutely
bananas.
flying. So when you see that sort of happening,
It's
you know
bullish.
that the market is hot. And if I look, we've been watching this for a while now, and my fear always when we have breakouts above a level is that it's going to fail, and have a false break. And that can lead to a big fall. So I'm always wary of that sort of thing when it initially breaks out. So you can see there, we had the breakout, and then we had the 2020 crash. So you've got to be wary on these breakouts. And my point is, right now, is that, this is actually looking like it is a breakout. So as long as it doesn't fail back below that February high, I'm cheering this thing on. And there's now no reason at all to be short. All the shorts have been killed. It's trending hard. Why isn't it going to do something like this breakout, that move like that? Why can't it do something like that over the next 6-12 months? It can. And, none of us know what the future holds. That's why I trust the charts so much. And at the moment, the charts are just saying you pretty much should be long and seeing what happens, because it could just keep going. There's no need to second guess it.
Well, the other thing about the US markets in particular, and we were sort of joshing about this with the stock in Australia, is it just gives you access to stocks that can get into industries that are just way more exciting than we can do here in Australia. We were talking before this started about Aurora, which is a packaging company, and you said, it looks pretty good on the chart. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a packaging company. It's just very hard to get excited about that sort of thematic. So I'm going to get you to look at one that I think is very exciting. So this is I'm stealing this idea actually from another guy. It's called Joby Aviation. Muzz, you were going to bring up the chart for us. But anyway, I'll just show you quickly. This was my little report from late last year. I think it was November. And I talked about Joby because they're developing flying taxis, flying cars. And there's a guy that works for an affiliate of Fat Tails called Whitney Tilson. And he came up with this one as what he called his favourite moonshot. So it doesn't make money. It's specky, but I guess...
It's got a market cap around 14 billion though.
Yes, I was going to say, it's kind of like Tesla back in 2010. Obviously, they're trying to do something that we don't normally fly our car to work. But
it makes sense. The future of having a flying taxi makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Well, if you can get it off
the
ground.
If I stumble out of the bar at midnight and I've got to get home and I can just get on a flying taxi and be home in 10 minutes rather than an hour drive, I'll probably pay $50, $100 to do that. So I think it is something that is going to happen one day, and maybe these guys will do it.
But the point being is, though, this is the kind of exciting potential that you can only get really in America. We don't really have this type of play in Australia. And so it's already rumbling now as we speak. So again, I flagged this as a moonshot through Whitney, credit to Whitney, last November. I think it's already doubled since then. But who's to say it doesn't do a Tesla and go up like 20,000% or whatever it's done in the last 10 years?
Exactly.
If they can make it work.
And it's looking interesting. Look, from a technical point of view, this is a monthly chart we've got here. And so, of course, I'm looking at the whole range which is really where everyone's positioned. You know, what prices has everyone paid for this stock? So at the moment, it's, you know, testing the top of the range. So the question always is it going to break out of that range and then start trending heavily again, which it could do. So the signs are there. We've got what is a long-term uptrend, which kicked off a little while ago at the start of 2025, which is great to see. You can also see this first wave to the upside here. Now, where did that pull back to? I think no prizes for guessing back into the buy zone of that particular wave you can see there. So it's moved in that first wave, the pullback, now it's starting to take off again. And we've had this nice impulsive wave to the upside here. I've actually done some calculations on this, which I can't tell people about these calculations because they're pretty much the secret sauce of what I do for people who are members of my services. But you could start nibbling at that at around $14, and I think if it pulls back to around $12, you'd probably load up on it to see whether this thing could take off, because it's all there. And just some sort of a mean reversion event, and then you never know. Taking off, breaking out above the high of the whole range, you never know what's going to happen once it starts trending again. So, you know, quite interesting.
Now, I should say with that one that it doesn't have much in the way of revenues or profits yet because it's so early stage. So it's a real specky, but just a perfect example of the exciting things that you can get access to in North America. Which brings me to the big announcement, Murray. Tell us, what is your big news for this?
Well, it's been in the works for quite a while, and after watching what's going on offshore and knowing, as you said, you know, you can't get these opportunities in Australia, I am setting up a new trading service, which will be focused just on international stocks. It will be initially mostly focused on the US, but ultimately it can go anywhere. We will chase where the opportunities are. I think this is really what a natural progression from what I've been doing. I've had 6-7 years trading in the Aussie market. I've managed to create for people what is 20% annualized gains based on a trading portfolio where you start with 100 grand when I first started the service, and if you're risking just 2% on each trade that I've made in that whole time, you'd be up 20% averaged annualized in that time, which is a pretty huge return. And I'm sure people can see a lot of my members, the testimonials from them of what they've been able to achieve. So this is sort of a natural progression. As a technical guy looking for these opportunities, I want more opportunities. I don't want less. I want to be able to scan the whole market. And, you know, Australia's 2% of the market. And we've been able to achieve these gains in the Australian market. So it just makes sense that I now take that model, which has been proven well and truly over nearly 7 years, and now let's start looking at the world market. And as you say, there's just so many more sectors and opportunities and future technology and what have you. I mean, it really is where it's at.
And I know Greg was telling me that when we told our alliance members, so the people who get everything, that you were going to be doing this, and the enthusiasm that came back, because I think everybody in Australia recognises that, you know, it's not saying there's no opportunity, but we just don't have like these.
We've underperformed so terribly over the last decade, and it's not a short-term thing where we'll meet up at some point. It's a structural issue in Australia that we grow a lot less. Look at the productivity meeting they're having next week, where the politicians will work out how to tax us more and probably lower our productivity. Let's face it. The ACTU came out and said, I know, for this productivity meeting, how about we lower it to a 4-day working week and everyone gets paid the same?
Or what about the state?
That's the definition of lowering productivity. That's not the definition of raising
here
productivity.
Here in Victoria, where the lady is like, oh yeah, let's make it law to work from home from 2 days. I mean, that's just like, if you own a business, you'd be like, what?
Yeah, I think Australia's going in a bad direction. There's still opportunity here. we're still creating great returns. We're still on the all-time highs, and we're rallying. But the US is rallying like that, and we're rallying like that. So that's what's happening. We're getting dragged higher, but that is where the real opportunities are, is offshore. So if you are interested in just finding out, you know, how you go about it, what the technology is now, how quickly it is to get set up to trade offshore, what the tax ramifications are, what the opportunities are that are out there, I've put together a little 5-part video series which just goes through, explains it all for you. You're going to have a lot to learn from it anyway, if you do check it out. So, just click on the link in the top right corner of the video right now. Go through there, sign up to get that 5-part free video series. They're very short. They're only like 5-10 minutes long each one, but they just go through and explain to you why I think getting at least some of your money offshore is absolutely what you should be doing now.
Yeah, and just interesting too, I think, with the US stocks, where you can have those massive runs, but so oftentimes their earnings are growing with them. Where here in Australia, I was thinking about TPW, the furniture online play that we've got here. Its market cap now is into the billions, and it made $11 million profit or something ridiculous. Like, its PE is just like off the scale, but because the Aussie market is so hungry for growth.
There's so few real quality companies in Australia that you end up, everyone goes after them, and they become so expensive that you almost can't buy them, and they end up blowing up. So like Audinate, it was the same thing. Yeah. Everyone, it's such great, it's going to be fabulous. Everyone was happy to pay whatever price you want, and now it's got absolutely killed. So there's so few pickings in Australia that they end up getting absolutely, everyone floods in, they get way overbought, and it becomes too risky. There's the runway offshore is just so massive. These companies that end up disrupting industries or new technology or what have you, I mean, they've got a growth runway that's so immense that they can just run and run and run. They really trend.
It's hard to believe. I was reading a book about Facebook, actually. The Kiwi girl, I think she was, wrote it. She worked there in the early days, and this was like 2011, 12. Back then, they were worried that they were going to run out of people. Like, that was like 15 years ago. Now they service half the world every single day. Like, it's just incredible, and you just can't get that here in Australia. So that's very exciting, mate. So I'm really pumped to see what happens there. Now, having said that, we talked a little bit Joby. I want you to bring up PWH, which is a little small Aussie stock here. That's one of my ASI recommendations. So this came from this issue last November. Now, they are going to release their full year results in August. Now, this, we don't know the exact date, but it'll be coming out soon. Now, it's going to be very interesting to watch the market's reaction to this release. So as you can see, this was one of those stocks actually that went pretty pricey, went 40 times earnings, and it's had a big drawdown. And I said to you, well, how's it looking according to your model? So what do you think? Yeah,
well, I mean, it actually looks pretty nice. If we just trace out what has been going on, let's just do some pretty...
And while you're doing that, I'll just mention that this has an angle, or potentially has an angle, into the air taxi business, because they do with heating and cooling.
There we go up there.
And he's trying to get it, the guy who runs it is trying to get them into the US. Well, they have manufacturing in the US already, but so they're trying to. We've seen some big moves related to defence, like EOS and Drone Shield lately. So they're trying to get into something, not drones in particular, but that same sort of government-driven contract as well. So so how's it look on the chart?
Well, I mean, really big picture, it's creating value over time, from 2017 running from $2 up to a high of 12. It's gone through a few years now. I mean, since 2021 really it's gone nowhere. So let's face it, that's the shorter term is of a stock that's sort of stuck in a range. But then I'm sort of looking at these waves and saying, well, where do I get interested? And if I'm looking at that most recent sort of big run that we had, that buy zone area of that wave is where I'm sort of waiting and watching, saying, is there going to be buying support in this area? Now, note, it is in long-term downtrend, so you'd be taking that risk on if you do jump in.
That's my style, mate.
But if we look at this, there's your low, there's the high of that low, there's your monthly buy pivot that's just come in there. So I've got calculations on where I'd be buying that on retracements and that sort of thing. But big picture, that looks pretty interesting to me. Look, if it busts down below that low, it's looking a bit dangerous. So if this long-term downtrend is maintained, let's say it comes in, turns back down, and actually breaks down through that low, you are looking at a bit of a bad move. So if you're buying it on the back foot, you're pretty much running away below those lows. So it's got a pretty clear risk reward on how you take it, and just
a bit of background to the chart. So that big down bar there. So when they came out last year with their earnings. They actually had great earnings, but he said that this 12 months that have now gone was going to be like a transition, that they expected things to slow down, and he's investing a lot of money into R&D and into their manufacturing. So it was always going to be a slow year, if you like, for the share price. So what the question is now is the investments they've made, are they going to start to bear fruit this year or down the line or never, kind of thing? So that's why this earnings that comes out and the guidance and the market reaction will be so important. If it gets a good reaction, that's a very solid entry to me, and it could start to move up because
it's certainly ready to start trending again. If it does come out with a good result and head through that the blue line, the 20-month moving average, I mean, you are starting to look as if it's trending again.
And if it gets a bad result or like a sharply negative, we know, well, the trade in the short term is not going to work. So
wait until the results come out.
Yeah, probably the safest idea, because if it could get ugly, because it's fairly low liquidity, I think, too. So anyway, watch that one to see. Well, are there any other stock ideas that you wanted to talk about? You mentioned Veritas when we were off the...
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, if you guys have been watching for a while, hopefully you have. I mean, I've been handing out some pretty good ideas of late. Let's have a look at Veritas. I gave this as a little tip in Closing Bell, actually before I even gave it to my guys in Microcap Trader.
Oh, I know the other one. Sorry.
But those guys ended up getting on it at 10 cents, which I'm very happy about. So this little spike you see here, that was actually from the Closing Bell people that I told them about it, and then it came back, and then I actually sent out an alert to buy it at 10 cents. That was my final tip in the microcap service, because I'm actually closed. I've handed that on
to do the international, right?
To do the international, because I'm more excited about that. So you can see there, long-term trend. There's an old massive run that happened years ago, and I've got the sort of buy zone area of that down here. So we've got the shift. The earnings are coming through on Veritas. They basically do a service that people can work out fraudulent clicks on their bot clicks, let's say, on marketing campaigns. So people lose a lot of money online from basically paying for clicks that aren't real. And so these guys can help you to get rid of that. They're a little niche player, and their revenue is starting to actually go. So this one, definitely to keep an eye on, and I hope some of you actually got on it. So please leave a message in the comment section and a like on the video, I hope, if you did get onto Veritas and you're happy with that, because I think that one could really start trending. And also, just remember, recently I was talking about Commonwealth Bank, saying that looked like a short.
I wanted to ask you about Weebit.
Weebit, yeah. Well, I mean, Commonwealth Bank, look, that's setting up as a monthly sell pivot this month. So I'll actually be able to have a signal on that one pretty soon. So that came out with pretty poor results and is, everyone knows, way overpriced. So that's setting up to start correcting. And the old Weebit, we actually had a chat about Weebit only a short while ago.
The reason we wanted to talk about this one a little bit is that when we talk about Australia, there are some stocks that have some angle to a big international theme. Now, Weebit is related to semiconductors.
Yep.
It doesn't make money. It's a real specky.
It's a whole new form of memory.
Yes.
To overtake flash memory.
Yes, but I've heard that for a while too.
Exactly.
But
it's
the
very high
point
risk.
is, if they come out and get a big contract with one of those big semiconductor firms, it will go through the roof.
Yeah,
in theory.
This is one that can go many, many multiples, but it is one that it may not work out. It goes to zero.
Yes.
But the upside's so big that it's worth having a bit of a crack. Now, and I did say, I actually gave this one, I don't know where it was, but it was weeks ago, and it's had a nice big run, and I think it's looking pretty good. You can see there, again, the major support through here. There's your monthly buy pivot coming in, and long-term trend getting close to shifting. So my question is the selling that we've seen for years and years from that high up at $9, is it over? And if it is, the flip can be quick in this one, because as you say, all it's going to take is some good news, people putting it into their products, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, this one could fly because the potential upside's so big.
So we were talking about this before the shows. With Weebit, do you put this is like in general rhetorical kind of, do you put a small stake on before you get an announcement on the assumption that they might get an announcement? but you run the risk that it just grinds away to nothing. Or do you wait for the big announcement, concede that it could spike 50% when it comes out, and then you jump on it because it could go up another 500%?
Well, I like taking it on. So I'm actually in this one. I got it below $2 actually in the sell-off.
Bring up a chart of EOS, Muzz, and I'll just give you an example of how this dynamic could play out, because we've sort of seen this with EOS. So EOS was a stock I gave to my small cap system guys. Oh, can you bring up the weekly rather? That's the monthly. And this one, see that rally there? So you got the two big green bars there. So the green bar was that just under $4 basically, where we got it from the sort of $1.20 to nearly $4, right?
Yeah.
Then we got the signal to get out. Now what happened was it started to go down. They came out with a big contract from a NATO country. I think it was 100 million euros or something. Look at the reaction off the market.
Huge.
In the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Just extraordinary.
Which is why sometimes with my process is to take profits. If you think, take part profit, and I really like to leave a chunk and just let's just see what can happen here.
Free option you call it,
yeah,
right?
Well, the free option, and then get into a win-win even. Like I'll sell a third for the free option. Then if it has a really big run, I might sell another third if momentum starts to turn down. But then I've still got a third, which might be hundreds of percent in the money. Whether the company goes bankrupt or not, I'm going to make money. And I've got a bid on to see if it goes ballistic. That's what you want to do, be in a win-win position.
And so the reason I mentioned this, so the market's hot on drones and defense spending because it's all going crazy around the world, right? And again, with semiconductors, that can happen because everyone knows NVIDIA. We all know how important semiconductors are now. That has the same potential. So that's the dilemma. Do you buy a bit or do you wait for the contract? But you got to be fast.
Well, this is where you put on a half position and then you see how it goes. If it sells off into a spot and gives you a buy signal, buy some more. If it has a good announcement and takes off, you can add to the position and make your average better. So, I think you can manage. I quite like going in with a half position and having the luxury of watching
with
what's
Linus.
going
so
on.
Show the Linus example, actually. Which is just probably one of the best trades you're going to do this year. I don't think you'll get too many better than this one. But so we talked about this on Closing Bell, didn't we?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yep.
So you bought it and it went down. That was the point of...
Yeah, so the how we bought this one, and again, I can't go into details of calculations, but initially I was worried that it could, because it started to trend, right? So we've got this trend starting, and we've got the long-term trend turned up, and it broke out above the high there. So the risk was for me that it could just go like that. So I was fearful of that. So I bought a half position. So we went in with a half position on the breakout, but I said I had other calculations that were to buy it down at $7.30. And in the end, the stock went down to $7.22. So we added...
So at that point, you were down, what, 20% or something? Or?
Well, we bought it above 8, and then it fell to, bought it about...
15,
so,
It's slightly uncomfortable. When,
exactly, exactly. But I managed to buy it at the low of the whole move before it then took off like a rocket. So instead of the sell-off being a problem, we added to the position in the really good level that my model can find.
Yeah, because these things are volatile, right? Like you can't just be expecting to buy it and go straight up kind of thing.
Never. It's ridiculous to think like that in the stocks.
You have to give them a bit of room to swing around a bit.
That's it.
I've been guilty of being too tight sometimes with that sort of thing. Well, so just a classic example there. And again, rare earths, it's been driven by the US really because it's all military related and all that type of thing. So again,
it's got a world runway.
International aspect to it is starting to go. And we're seeing some moves now that we didn't see for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, there is a heat to the market now, and the market will chase those big thematics, whether it's drones, military spending, rare earths, lithium starting to heat up again. We'll see how far that goes. All right, so we can probably leave it there. Some interesting stuff to follow there. So Joby, wee bit of interest, PWH, an earnings announcement in August.
And be sure to check out the video series just to work out, whether it's something of interest to you to actually go offshore and start chasing some of these really big runs. There'll be a link below the video, and also hopefully there'll be another link above me now which you can click on to go and just watch that pretty quick video series to learn all about it.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we can leave it there. Again, as Murray said earlier, if you like the show, give it a thumbs up, whatever. And you can always leave a comment to see what charts you want Murray to have a crack at, as ever. So we'll see you next week.
See you later.